Anticipatory guidance, remember, is as parents bring kids in for well visits, they get some advice or information about the things that are coming up. So for nutrition, school age kids, their caloric needs decrease in relation to their size as their growth slows. So sometimes parents are still continuing to try to get them to eat more, eat more, eat more. A healthy neurotypical kid needs to eat to their appetite. They need to have foods that are available to them be mostly healthy foods. During the pre-adolescent growth spurt, they'll have an increased appetite. And parents will joke about, okay, oh my gosh, they're in a growth spurt. They've eaten 6 times today. They're still hungry. That's really common when they're getting ready to hit that growth spurt. Kids need a variety of healthy food options to be available. It's acceptable for parents to say, this is what's for dinner, this is what we're eating, but they need to be offered a variety of different foods if possible. There's been a rise in childhood obesity, and there's a lot of societal factors that are connected to that. Kids are spending, during their school day, kids are spending more time in their seats and less time active. They've cut back recess. Some schools don't have PE every day. So they're spending less time active after school. Rather than playing with kids in the neighborhood, they may be doing homework. If they're not in an organized sport, kids are less likely to be active during the after school and weekend time. So organized sports has kind of taken away some of the options for activity. But also, we have an increase in the availability and affordability of low nutrient, high calorie foods. And honestly, healthy foods are more expensive and more difficult for a lot of families to get, and they take more time to prepare. So our intake as a culture has changed, and that's affected kids as well. Parents have less control of what their kids eat when they get into the school age years. They're eating at school. They may have some pocket money and go to the corner store. They may be at a friend's house or at a birthday party, whatever. So parents start to lose some of the control of what their children eat. So teaching good eating habits in the toddler and preschool years is really important. School lunches there have been a lot of controversies about school lunches over the years. There are controversies about who should pay for them and who should get free lunches and who should buy their own lunch and what should be in those school lunches. A lot of school lunches are based on the cheapest foods that can be purchased. And so they may be high in starch, high in sugar, high in fat, but actually low in nutrients. Some schools cut back the calorie count on school lunches, but without changing the quality of the foods. That means kids may not be getting enough food to eat. Even though their calorie needs are being met, they're still not getting good nutrients. Sleep needs. Most school-age children do not get adequate sleep in our country. School-age kids need 9 to 11 hours of sleep. On the earlier end, that's higher, and that goes down as they get older. Younger school-age kids may have a hard time sleeping because of nighttime fears. Older school-age kids may resist bedtime because they're more interested in doing something else. And there also are a lot of competing things. They have homework, they have sports, they have video games, TV, movies, all of those things that push bedtime back later and later. And school start times are still mostly around 8 o'clock. Some schools are pushing back to 9, but still mostly around 8 o'clock. And so that tends to compress the time that kids have to sleep. Some kids may choose to go to bed early to read or listen to music, and that can actually help them get more adequate sleep. Parents should enforce a reasonable bedtime and limit electronics at night for the health of their children. Exercise and activity. If they have the opportunity, most kids are going to be active in play. Some kids may have less opportunity because of individual factors. So some kids have less opportunity for play because their school has more seat time and less recess time. They live in a place where they can't safely go out and play, or they don't have a place to go out and play. They may come home, be home alone, so they have to stay locked, keep the doors locked and stay in the house, things like that. So those are some environmental things. But kids with physical disabilities or kids who are obese or less coordinated all may get kind of left out of physical activity. And so they may need some actual intentional intervention to increase their physical activity. We want to encourage regular exercise. We want to encourage parents to be cautious with competitive sports. We really just want kids moving and eating healthy foods. And we should focus on those things rather than on BMI and weight as heavily. Dental health, the permanent teeth begin to erupt. Kids need to be brushing, flossing regularly. They should avoid concentrated sugar. They should have regular dental cleaning and assessment. Cavities are common. We have more and more sugar in our diets and available to us, and so cavities are more common. But also dental trauma can occur because of the way that kids play. It can be from sports, they fall out of a tree, so dental trauma happens at times. Sex education. Sex education should be presented throughout childhood in age-appropriate ways. Okay, so we need to be presenting information about bodies as kids get older, or as kids from the beginning, and then that information increases and becomes more detailed as they get older. Do we need to be teaching first graders the mechanics of sexual intercourse? No, but there are a lot of things they can be learning. And that education about their bodies and about the boundaries of their bodies, that adults don't have the right to see or touch their bodies. And that they have the right to say, no, I don't want that person to hug me. Those things are helpful. And also, if that other person doesn't want to hug or doesn't want to be touched, how to respect the other person's boundaries. And those things can really help be protective, or help kids be able to let someone know when their boundaries have been violated. We should answer kids' questions honestly. If they haven't been asked, then we need to anticipate that they may have questions and try to open that discussion. And that may be a role that healthcare professionals play, but we have to respect parental preferences. We want to encourage parents to be open with information, but we do in the end have to respect their preference. Some sex play in the school age years is common and normal if it's based on curiosity. If that's happening, we should teach parents to correct the kids without shaming them. But if there's a point at which it becomes concerning for maybe that child having been exposed inappropriately. So what might be normal for young school age kids, I'll show you yours if you'll show me mine, kind of thing. But if a child is exposing, touching other children, especially without their consent, if they are acting out sexual behaviors, those things are concerning for that child, maybe having been exposed to things that are not age appropriate. So we've got to understand kind of what is typical. Curiosity is normal, but acting out sexual actions they shouldn't have seen is not, and needs to be addressed. But those things should be corrected. We keep our bodies covered without shaming. Okay. Safety issues. Most common causes of death and serious injury, MVA. Kids need to be in a seatbelt every time. I encourage parents, to not move the car until the seatbelts are on. Okay, seatbelt on every time without fail. If they develop that habit, they actually will carry it through to the teenage years most of the time. Bikes, skateboards, and ATVs. Helmets. And parents need to be, where we live, a lot of kids ride four-wheelers. Parents need to be cautioned, those are not toys. Okay, four-wheelers are motorized vehicles and they are dangerous, and kids need to not be riding them unsupervised, and they should have a helmet. So bikes, skateboards, ATVs, things like that, they need helmets. Trampolines without a guard, trampolines are a cause of very serious injuries. So they should have a guard around them that doesn't allow the child to fall off or bounce off. Minor injuries are very, very common. Kids can learn how to handle those without panicking, you know, how to go clean it, put on a Band-Aid, that kind of thing. How to tell the difference between a minor injury and something that might be more serious. And sports injuries become a lot more common because they're getting bigger, and so the impacts are getting harder. So sports injuries become more common. Okay, that's all for school age. Next, we're going to start talking about adolescence.